The attraction of the gopis for Krishna and the affection of the members of the Jadu dynasty are both accepted as spontaneous, or rāgānugā. The attraction of Kamsa to Krishna in fear and the attraction of Shishupali in envy are not accepted as devotional service, however, because their attitudes are not favorable. Devotional service should be executed only in a favorable frame of mind. Therefore, according to Srila Rupa Goswami, such attractions are not considered to be in devotional service. Again, he analyzes the affection of the Jadus. If it is on the platform of friendship, then it is spontaneous love. But if it is on the platform of regulative principles, then it is not. In other words, some of the Yadus were attracted to Krishna on the platform of regulative principles, like Akrura, for example. Akrura is a good example because he was actually one of the servants of King Kamsa. He was working for Kamsa, but he was a devotee. So out of regulative principles, he was engaged in the service of Kamsa, and he came to Vrindavan to pick up Krishna and bring him to Kamsa for the wrestling contest. So he came and he offered so many nice prayers to Krishna, and by these prayers then he became liberated. He attained success in devotional service. And after that he was on the spontaneous platform. But up until that time he was on the platform of regulative principles. Only when affection comes to the platform of spontaneous love is it counted in the category of pure devotional service. You see? So to be considered a pure devotee, you have to attain the platform of spontaneous love. You can't be a pure devotee and be based solely on the platform of regulative principles. That's not accepted by Rupa Goswami. Try to understand. You see, the whole thing in ISKCON is wrong. The whole platform, their whole presentation of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, of the philosophy of Rupa Goswami, is completely wrong because they emphasize this platform of regulative principles exclusively. And they imply very strongly, they don't actually come out and say it directly because it would be easy to defeat that. But they imply very strongly that you have to stay on this platform of devotional service according to regulative principles. You can't go beyond that. They imply that very strongly because they themselves are not beyond it. They themselves don't have spontaneous love of Krishna. You see? So because of that, they cannot really offer pure devotional service because they're not practicing it themselves, according to Rupa Goswami. You see, this is why they have to change the books, they have to change the teachings and the philosophy, because they themselves are not on the platform of pure devotional service. And if they were to preach accurately, then they would reveal themselves as being hypocrites. They would have to step down, and they would have to let actual advanced devotees take the Vyasa-san and teach. You see? But they don't want to do that because they're politicians and they're motivated by power, lust for power. See, I know these men very, very well. I lived with them for years. I know them inside and out. And all this was confirmed by Srila Prabhupada. So, there may be some difficulty in understanding that both the gopis and Kamsa achieved the same goal. So this point should be clearly understood, because the attitudes of Kamsa and Shishupal were different from that of the gopis. Although in all these cases the focus is on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all of the devotees are elevated to the spiritual world, there is still a distinction between these two classes of souls. In the first canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it is said that the Absolute Truth is one, and that He is manifested as impersonal Brahman, Paramatma, the Super Soul, and Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here is a spiritual distinction. Although Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan are the same and one absolute truth, devotees like Kamsa or Shishupal could attain only to the Brahman effulgence. They could not have realization of Paramatma or Bhagavan. That is the distinction. Is that clear? So in other words, without positive affection, they can't go beyond Brahman. They can't go beyond oneness. Just like it's described that Dhritarashtra attained Brahman. Because even though he was, a great soul in so many respects, he had committed so many offenses against devotees and so many, indirectly offenses against Krishna that he couldn't attain the platform of spontaneous love. See? This is why religion doesn't work. Religion always puts some barrier in between the soul and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It could be a philosophical barrier, an ontological barrier, or a barrier of time. Like the Christians say, well, you accept Jesus Christ now, and then at the time of death you get liberation, or you go to heaven, or something like that. They're kind of real vague about what it actually is. But they're putting a barrier of time. In the meantime, you have to serve the church. See, you don't serve God directly. You serve the church, and by serving the church, then, later on you get some result. But no, all these things, Prabhupada here is not using the future tense. You notice that? He's not saying that sometime in the future, then maybe you get to go to the spiritual world. No, he's saying when you come into a spontaneous, loving relationship with Krishna, then you're in the spiritual world. You're in the spiritual world because you're in consciousness of your real self as a spiritual being in relationship with Krishna right now. So if you attain this realization, if you attain this level, this platform of spontaneous love, you are in the spiritual world. You are self-realized. It's immediate. As soon as it happens, as soon as you attain that consciousness, try to understand. We're not talking about salvation. It's a whole different thing. We're talking about Krishna consciousness, self-realization. That can happen anytime. Prabhupada always said it can happen in a second. All you have to do is chant the holy name without offense. And that's the trick. See? The trick is to chant with the holy name without offense is not so easy. It takes a long time and a lot of purification before one is eligible to chant without offense. Most of us are committing offenses all the time. So this requires a deep philosophical and ontological transformation of our mind, our intelligence, and our consciousness. Then we can chant without offense. But to do that, you have to go beyond the mind. If you're still on the mental platform, you cannot chant without offense. You have to go beyond the mind, and it feels like you're going crazy. So most people will hang on to the mind, because the mind is freaking out. Hey, you're not listening to me anymore. You're not under my control anymore. The mind goes crazy. And tries to drag you back under his control. You're going to go crazy. You're going to go nuts. You're going to lose your mind. Yeah, I'm going to lose my mind. Thank God. The mind is dragging us all over this material world. Up and down through lifetime after lifetime. Sometimes a demigod, sometimes a worm in stool, sometimes in hell, sometimes on earth, sometimes as a man, a woman, a dog, a cat, whatever. That's all because we're following the mind. So we have to get beyond this mind, and the best way to get beyond the mind is through love. Love of Krishna, love of the Absolute, love of the Supreme Person. We have to love Krishna, and by this love, by this spontaneous attraction, which is beyond the senses, beyond the mind, beyond anything material, we attain a pure love. And that's, the gateway to self-realization. The analogy can be given with the sun globe and the sunshine. To remain in the sunshine does not mean one has gone to the sun globe. The temperature of the sun globe is different from the temperature of the sunshine. One who has gone through the sunshine in jet planes or in spaceships has not necessarily gone to the sun globe. Although the sunshine and the sun globe are actually one and the same in quality, still there is a distinction because one is the energy and one is the energetic source. The Absolute Truth and his bodily effulgence are in the same way simultaneously one and different. Kamsa and Shishupal attained to the Absolute Truth, but they were not allowed to enter into the Goloka Vrindavan planet. Impersonalists and the enemies of the Lord are, because of attraction to God, allowed to enter into his kingdom, but they are not allowed to enter into the Vaikuntha